like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Simon Smith.
Nice to meet you, Simon.
And I will say that Simon is, I met him through my workplace. He is a resident, one of the few people I actually worked with.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I brought him on the show, he's obviously from Lewisham.
Yeah.
But also he does a number of things for the community. He does a lot of voluntary work, and to be honest, I just thought he'd be a really good person, a voice really, to kind of come on and share his story. So that's what we're here for today. However, I can't lie, I forgot to ask him, but we do this thing where we want to do this thing where every week we want to go and explore a different place in Lewisham and kind of find a restaurant that isn't well known to recommend to people.
Yeah.
We unfortunately both kind of forgot and didn't do this week.
Yeah.
I can recommend something
Yeah.
that I like in Lewisham, which is Levante, which is like the they do like kebab but it's like a quite high end thing. But I was gonna say, Simon, do you have a particular spot that you like to go to in terms of food that's like unique? It can't be when we say unique, it can't be like, you know, mainstream like McDonald's or something. It has to be something that's like
maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course, because there are a few food shops in Lewisham and also in Bromley, which I think to take the time to go to the cafes.
Yeah.
In my local facility, and we have a good breakfast there with the local people from the area. And also it's a place where we get to know one another and we have discussions on certain issues. One of mine, which is favourite, which is music, which I collect a lot of records. Obviously, I'm the holy grail, as they say, Simon Smith and Amazing Dancing Bears. So I would say I have a massive collection of music. So I like to go from one cafe to another, and obviously speak to people and engage with them on not just with music, but also with cassettes and also with videos. We're also talking about 45s. We're also speaking to people about 78s. We're also speaking to people about the old-time videotapes, and that seems to say rewind and be kind.
So far out from what we're used to.
There's many different things we like to talk about when we go out into our local community area, and we have an opportunity to maybe go into a different cafe or a fast food shop.
Yeah.
And
is there a particular spot that you'd want to shout out?
Well, there's so many cafes and
you
restaurants.
Could just pick one. You could just pick one. If you can't, it's cool. But
well, it would be very not very
fair
of me.
Okay, you know,
Obviously, I've ate from every single one, and all the restaurants which I've actually had meals on is been very hygienic and very clean. So obviously, I always look at if it smells good, it looks good. So obviously, it must taste good. So there's no problem me say I have a favourite, because there is many different flavours of food.
Yes.
Just like there is many different flavours of music, and there's many different flavours of people.
So if you have a favourite, that means you can share, no?
So it's one of those things whereby I wouldn't really say that I would tell anybody where's my favourite restaurant.
Sorry, he's a celebrity, my bad.
Purely of the reason of security reasons.
It makes sense.
Obviously owning the most collection of music in probably in London, I've been told. So so that's kind of a real hard one at the moment. But maybe in the next time I come onto your station, I'll be able to give you a more precise location.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll have one or two people actually wants to come down to that location, and maybe they can witness me playing a 78 or a 45, or we can maybe have a talk.
Look, considering that you collect a lot of music, how do you feel that a lot of music is switched to streaming services?
Well, I think with the streaming services, it's it's more of an AI interactive, and you're not doing so much with your brain. Whereby it's a vinyl, you have to put the record on, you have to take the record off, you have to clean the record. You are doing so much well-being.
So do you feel like it's created a place of laziness?
I think it's already created a place of laziness, because obviously everybody's streaming offline. There is the marketplace for vinyl records and records and DJs are making a remarkable comeback. But obviously within the digital age we are in now, it's been very difficult for DJs to actually make music and obviously put it on the shop, so the younger generation can get a more proactive feeling of the music and what music really means to you. When it's on AI, obviously you've got to search for it, and you're paying them a considerable amount of money to listen to maybe just two tracks.
I will correct that. It's not AI technically. Okay. Streaming services is just playing the music through like applications online rather than having a CD disc and stuff like that.
Well, I guess a lot of it is like when it comes to like I know this is a good and a bad thing. When it comes to like getting recommendations for music, it is like a lot of like algorithmic stuff.
It's a lot of patterns.
When I guess I don't know what I'm saying, like back in the day, but you'd either have to like hear a tune on the radio, note it down. Well, I remember when I first was introduced to like YouTube, I literally had like a page of like songs on the radio that I was like, oh my God, these songs sound so good. I wonder what the music video would be. And I'd write it down, and then I remember the one. I think it's I forgot what the name is. I think it's a song by it's by Luther Vandross, and I remember seeing that for the first time. That music video, I was like, oh my goodness. And yeah, it's like stuff like that. When it comes to like music recommendations, a lot of it is like algorithms. You like this. You like this kind of tempo. Let's see what we can find.
It's not just that. It's like the genre that you're listening to, or like, I think the big key difference is back then your recommendations came from people.
Yeah, parents where you are,
friends, growing up,
like
your environment.
Your
exactly, your community, and also everyone has like there's different types of community, especially in Lewisham.
Yeah.
Where we have so many different races and cultures coming together. So, no, 100%. I think growing up, the streaming services thing, I do agree. We don't have to look after records. And like, especially vinyls, man. Like, I only have one vinyl in my room. It's obviously courtesy of my best friend Coyote.
Oh yeah, good.
Get me a J. Cole record, but the biggest thing for me is like I don't even want to touch it because I don't want to break it.
Yeah, it looks very pretty.
Do you know what I mean? So I 100% understand that sentiment that you have. But I was gonna say, moving to just like your background, like what made you want to do volunteering?
I find like I originally came from a family. We originally came from Birmingham, and I grew up in Birmingham, and I came to London when I was a very young age. And obviously, coming from a very unstable background and being in a care home, I had the opportunities when I came to London to make something better for myself. So it was difficult at the time. I started out in McDonald's, I've been a chef, I've been a painter, decorator, I've done many training, but I always, after working for so many years, I thought that it would be nice to give something back to the system which has helped me and given me the tools to be who I want to be. So by me doing the voluntary work, it's just give me the aspirational and the love and the kindness for me to go into the community and do something voluntary, which I, passionately love doing. So I thought, well, I'll get involved with voluntary work, meaning whereby if it was a paid job, which I've done for many years, you can't give so much time to somebody because you run your hours.
Yes,
but when you do something voluntary, you can go that little bit more.
Yeah, that extra mile.
A little bit more with talking with people, getting a bit more understanding of what their needs are, how can you help them, what direction can you put them in. So that was my main focus on why I got involved with voluntary work, and it was a way of me meeting different people. And when I met different people, I started to collect different music.
I see. So it's influenced your music.
So it influenced me, and then when I collected so many different variety of music, till the ever ended Holy Grails, then I thought I started something else. Then I started collecting cassettes, and then when I've collected the cassettes and I've met the people who listen or has listened to those particularly pieces of music, so I have a connection by speaking to them, or they speaking to me, say, "Oh, do you remember Pink Floyd, or do you remember Led Zeppelin, or do you know a bit of Bob Marley, or do you know,
Pink Floyd, don't you
Musical Youth or something like that?" So by me doing the voluntary work, and obviously when you do voluntary work, you end up in charity shops. Yeah. You end up on rag streets or market stalls and things like that. So it was an opportunity for me, because I had a very low income, to do voluntary work. When I've done voluntary work, other people done voluntary work with me. And then also with the voluntary work, I only had a very small income. So my voluntary work paid off for me by using my small income, which was only, what I'm saying to you was just the dole money. Just say it was unemployment benefit or whatever. So I used my basically unemployment benefit money to catch on with the voluntary, to do voluntary work within the community on a very small scale. And it grew from a very small scale, from doing it voluntary, spending my little bit of money and dole, to a sponsored company coming in, or the local shops coming in and say, "We'll support you with your voluntary work, because we can see that is something which has got a lot of stability, and obviously we can help you to put you on the platform which could benefit you, not just me, because if I'm doing the voluntary work, they would encounter with it themselves, because they feel that we want to give something as well back to the community." So that was a chain reaction, yes. So with all of that, this is why I've done voluntary work for near enough, I could say a good 38 years of voluntary work.
38 years. 38, viewers, listeners, I just want to say, 38 years. Bro, I've only been alive for 25.
That's
a lot of time.
You got numbers in the game.
That's a lot of experience and a lot of time you've put back into people. I just wanted to say, from a personal, because obviously I've met Simon because he was a resident that I looked after. But from a personal point of view, like, I can tell that your energy, like, especially with people, is like really, you're a really social person. Like, you really do try to connect with people, and I think that comes through from the way you speak and the way you kind of just try to interact with people. I feel like there's a lot of that is kind of missing these days. Maybe I'm not saying it's a Lucian thing or a London thing, but I feel
think
like
generally doing voluntary work will help out with that. Like me, so I volunteer at the Grove Park Library, and I'm not gonna lie, I'll put it bluntly, I'm definitely more of like a shut-in person. I like to stay indoors. I'll call you, we'll text, meeting up, here and there. I'm not really good for like conversation, but I think when I started going to work at the Grove Park Library, I definitely felt like I actually did every week. I wanted to go there because it just made me see different people. There's like a knitting club, seeing them all the time. I used to make tea for them and stuff like that, and it does like broaden like how you see things. You always kind of want to talk to people because you are like, you're putting your time. You don't have to be there. So if you are going to be there, you might as well, talk to people, and it does help you like get out of your shell. So I definitely would recommend, volunteering.
Well, what it seems to have done with a lot of the people I've worked with within doing the voluntary is that you've given them an horizon to wake up in the morning to say they've got
Correct.
something to look forward to.
100%.
Maybe not be the breakfast, may not be, you know, something which they really, really want, but they know that they can open that door. They're going to meet someone down the road. They're going to be either doing a bit of weeding or a bit of gardening or a bit of painting or just picking up litter. And once you start to show a bit of passionate for your own community area, don't get me wrong, there will be people watching you. And they'll either come out and offer you a cup of tea, and if you're not doing a very good job, obviously some of them tell you to clear off. But 99%, once you've got a group of maybe, because I've had done voluntary work in a certain area within Lucian, working with a few of the youth, and after doing the voluntary work for so many years, obviously you come onto a place where you have members. Members meaning that you have a chair, then you have a vice chair, then you have a treasurer. And then once you've got things like that going on, then you are ready to get further help from the government, to get the ball rolling, and to work with whatever the problem may be in that particular area. So I was given fundings, voluntary fundings, to do an exclusion in a certain area.
So what's an exclusion?
An exclusion is something which we do in a lot of the communities, where we put on an event. It could be from street dancing, it could be to music, could be having a performance coming in, and when you engage with a lot of youth, or you engage with youth, you have to talk what they talk. You have to do the walk what they walk. But also you have to respect the youth. Now I engage with quite a few youths, well over 200 youths one day in a particular event. We got permission from the council to close the road, and the money was allocated to me. I was the treasurer. After doing voluntary work, I was the treasurer on a committee. I used the money to do an excursion for the youths. Now, no one has never done anything like this for them before. So I thought, I'm going to give it a go, obviously. And it was, it's to my surprise that when I'd done the event, it went very, very well. It was one of those events where we had the roads closed off. It was maybe a mayor event or street party event, and we give them all the money to go and, you know, basically get the dancers in and the food in. They had to do all that by themselves, so I trusted in them to go and do it. They did obviously deliver on the day. There was no trouble. We had PCSOs dancing with them. There was one thing which did bother our committee, because I had to get engagement. There was not supposed to be alcohol
I don't know if we should be saying
on the day, but all it was a very small cider they brought. But what it was, when we finished the event, they wanted to know what was good and what didn't go so good, and so on. And that was the most engagement. And when you have a group of kids, they are putting their, it's not saying they had weapons and they had knives or whatever, but they, on this particular day, they dressed up. You know, there was no of this bagging. They all put on their trousers. There was none of these trainers, the young guys, they dressed up because they had their elders or their parents telling them, look, there's nothing never happened in this particular area. This young man is coming to this area. He wants to put on an event for us, don't spoil it. And we've done events one after the other within Lewisham for 5 to 6 years.
Wow.
Continuously.
How long ago was that?
We're going back from here now, maybe 7 years ago.
Wow.
And
so this is pre-COVID.
Yeah, we had the mayors come there, we have the councillors come in there. I would go out with a tonide and drum up the people and speak to the people on their level, what they want to hear, telling them what is going on, on.
So
on
do
the
you
day.
feel like, well, I know for me and Kaidi, like, obviously there was a point in the period where I wasn't really around Lewisham
Yeah.
7 years ago, but what I would say is that, do you feel like, in the area, do you feel like there's not much? Do you feel like there should be more offered to the youth?
There should be a lot more offered to the youth. But offered to the youth, when you offer something to the youth, you got to know what you're offering them and what way you're offering them.
Yeah.
I offered them an event, which was handed out through the government.
So do you feel like there's not enough
There's
events?
not enough events. Obviously, we used to do a lot of roller skating, and we used to say to the kids, put down the knives and pick up your roller skates. And a lot of them, we used to do a lot of roller skating. And the music I try to say, which I've earned over the years, it's a communication to the subjects, whether it's this group of kids or another group of kids which speaks a different language, or another group of kids what speak a different language, and so on, so on, so on. So youths have all got very short fuses, but there's a way that you probably won't see the fuse if you engage with them the right way. I'm talking the fuse to me is like what's going on now in lives, and a lot of role models are, and I look at them as role models, but also I look at them as a very, very important use, role models. I look at them. So when they, it's like, don't get involved and just on the streets and selling drugs, and carrying knives and carrying antisocial behaviour. I think there is a margin, which if it was just allowed for you to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And once you got them and you hold in their hand, they're not going to let you go.
That is true.
They won't let you go because they see something within you which they don't see nowhere else. Yeah, and once they get that momentum, then other youths follow them. And the thing that I was saying about doing the exclusion, they were looking at me as a role model, but also a lot of them said I give them a lot of love.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them come from single fathers, single mothers, broken abuse, real hard times.
Yeah.
And because I've been through similarities like them,
It's easy for you have that relatability.
It's easy for me to relate to them.
Yeah,
So
and I think relatability is definitely really important, especially when you're trying to connect. Especially if you're an older person trying to connect to a younger person, trying to bridge that gap. Because a lot of the time, well, especially after experiencing it, working at Phoenix and getting to have the opportunity to work with you, Simon, and kind of helping you with your digital needs, right? A lot of the times we feel like when you're like a teenager, like young adult, you kind of live in your own world, and then older people,
they don't get it,
and they have they don't get it because you feel like they live on a different world altogether.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? You like connection.
It's like you both lived like two completely different lives.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though one has just lived a life longer than you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Even though, like, I guess you both went through two different times. Like, we grew through this time, and you went through the other.
Exactly.
Time.
We were born and raised in the digital era, whereas like someone like Simon, you was raised in a much different, an older generation. But when was you born? Sorry. My bad. Well, he said he worked for what, 38 years?
38 years of doing voluntary. When you work for 38 years of doing voluntary, obviously, as you know, trees drop their leaves. So when trees drop their leaves, it makes me feel how much work I've done with the people I've worked with. Yeah. And it's a way of me saying, well, I've achieved something by giving someone my volunteering time. And the knowledge and the skill, because I've done a lot of training when you're doing voluntary. There's many opportunities you can have, or you can gain, or you can give. So with all of those, like I said, I'm passionate about people getting more involved with voluntary work.
Do you think that there is a lack of like? Do you think there's like a misunderstanding behind voluntary work?
I think everyone takes voluntary work. Some people take it. It's like a seesaw. So if you haven't got a balanced weight in the middle, people doesn't want to do. You have to have something in the distance for them to say, well, it's going to be worthwhile for them to do the voluntary work. If you're just going to go outside his front door and says, excuse me, you're going to come and tidy my garden to any stranger, they're going to tell you no. But if you was to go out there with a cup of tea and a pack of biscuits and ring a bell and says, is anyone walking by would like to clear my garden, I'll give you a packet of biscuits and a cup of tea. I think maybe if you know, you're going to get some sort of engagement, but a lot of them values have been lost.
So do you feel like there's, in terms of voluntary work, just from the way you said it, because I'm not going to lie, if I was to say that to any of my younger cousins or like any of my like friends that have like siblings, if I offered them tea and biscuits to clean my garden, they would tell me to go away.
I guess it just depends. Like,
do you think it's like the fact that there's no reward, or like that you feel like there needs to be a level of reward not advertised, but like when they do the voluntary work, obviously. Like a lot of people say it's experience. Some people say it's like connecting with people and creating.
I think it's a lot to do with the connections, and as long as it's not one dimensional. I think it's like, as you said, some places like we need volunteers for X thing. As soon as you've done X thing, you leave. Nothing in the middle. I think there's like things that can bridge other things to explore there. So like when I did do work at the library, there's other things in the library that I can also help out. I'm not just like sorting out books. I'm helping out organize different events. Like we had a lovely event a couple months ago now in the park. I'm helping doing gardening and stuff like that. It can't be like so one dimensional. Hi, we need volunteers to pick up these heavy blocks for us and stuff like that, and then you do it and then you go home. When there's like, that's when you start like, we're starting to lose so many volunteers, because like it feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and I'm not engaging with the community. But I feel like if the community side is on the other side and you actually are going to somewhere to volunteer, and it's like, okay, I'm actually interacting with a lot of people, and I'm gonna look forward to interacting with them next week, I feel like there will be a lot more volunteers. So yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I think me personally, I don't think I have volunteered. I mean, I've done, like your 2 weeks work experience at school, and I went back to my primary school for that. So it's a very weird feeling being like a TA equivalent, essentially. Yeah. But in terms of like volunteering, I think the one thing I've gotten from the both of you is that connection is the biggest thing. Yeah. And in regards to connection, people I feel like the value of connection has been lost over time. And I think, I don't know about you, Simon, but how did you find COVID?
Well, COVID for me was a was a very, very disastrous situation, not just for me, but for the whole world itself.
Yeah, of course.
Having everyone basically be locked up in your own house and not being able to come out, not being able to express yourself, not being able to see your loved ones, not being able to see your friends. Yeah. It's had a total knock-on effect to many people, and a lot of them still haven't recovered from that. Yeah. And we don't know whether they will recover from that. Only time can tell. But I could say that there could have been more done. You could have put the plaster on before, just when it starts to bleed more than then put a bandage on at the worst time. And I just think there's a lot of people out there that could have done maybe a little bit more to try and help themselves through the COVID situation. But obviously the government came in and said that you all have to stay indoors and you have to have a social hours of distance when you're going shopping and so forth. So a lot of people was left without, I could say, someone who they could talk to or someone who they could visit. And, it's quite important for human beings to talk to one another or to touch one another,
Yeah.
and to to go and visit your elderly and stuff like that. So when that is all taken away, then it's like basically the same thing with the youth. Everything is it's basically like a virus with the knife crime. I think that's a very, very sad situation, but it can be made better by doing voluntary work. Simple as that.
That's a great advertisement. But I was gonna say, in terms of like COVID, because just to give you our perspective, obviously I just came out of uni and kind of dropped out, and then COVID kind of hit us. For me, COVID was very like, it was an eye opener, because obviously prior to COVID, obviously I was always a gamer. I always, that was my escapism. That's how I dealt with a lot of my things growing up, and especially it's been a hobby since I've been a kid.
Yeah.
But I think when you're locked in and you're kind of like, you kind of get your basic rights, not rights taken away, but just the concept of like not being able to leave your house, not being able to go and get certain foods, or, like, especially because I'm considered, what was it when you're considered like high risk? I was considered high risk. So I wasn't really like, even among my family, I was not allowed to really go out.
Yeah.
And so for me, even though we grew up in the digital age, and we can kind of communicate, and like, we get to play games with our friends and whatever, I felt this disconnect with myself, because it's like, I'm not doing any of the other things that I would be doing alongside it. Now it's become too much of one thing.
Like when you wanted to do, play games, it's like, okay, yeah, I can play it a lot now. But when it's like, okay, I feel like now I just have to do it, like, because that's the only thing I can do, like, because I'm just staying inside. Obviously, there's so much more that you can do, but sometimes you just don't want to have a screen. Sometimes you do want to, like, go outside, go for those like walks and stuff, but
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, that's our perspective of it, and obviously, through Phoenix, big up the company I'm from.
Big up Phoenix.
But as it's a community-based company, and they do a lot of schemes for residents. One of the things that we recently did for you, Simon, was we gave you a laptop through the Connected Together scheme.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say, so like for you, especially during COVID, did you feel like, as an older resident, as someone that is like, did you feel like the world kind of moved forward and kind of left you behind in a way?
In that sense, yes.
Did you feel like it kind of left you?
It left me behind, because obviously I couldn't get no help. I didn't have all I had was my mobile phone. Obviously, like I said, you do voluntary things, so you can only top up when you have the requirements of enough fundings. So I was left in my house during the lockdown. It wasn't a very good experience, but on the other hand,
I'm not trying to give you PTSD, but I'm trying to go back to it. I apologize. I only brought it up because I know the changes that you've gotten recently.
Yes.
And I know that, as someone who, obviously, I grew up with tech, so it's never really been a problem for me. I just wanted to highlight like how different our POVs are, like the contrast of experience.
Yeah, well, what's the hub's done for me now by you giving me a computer, it's giving me the tools to move myself forward. And obviously, I originally came from Birmingham, so we didn't get a chance to go back to do the exams. So it's given me the tools to get a bit more confidence within myself, also to do things by myself. Also, it's by having just the makeup of the laptop and being known how to use the laptop, because I come into the hub and obviously there's a few people around the table. I do suffer from a disability myself, and obviously all these years I felt like I wasn't worth it. So I didn't take up the digital skills of using a computer or a laptop or anything like that. I always my writing and my spelling, the way I done things, I came from a grammar school to a boarding school. I done shorthand. So my writing and my way of communicating with people is the Flintstones way, basically.
The Flintstones.
So I done that for many,
That's
many
a
years
shout out.
until just now, within this last maybe 2 months, I've been given a laptop. So it's like I've been given look at it, it's like saying it's like a Bible. I've just been given a Bible.
That's a crazy comparison.
So I had to compare it with something. So
Yeah.
I've just been given a Bible, electronic one.
So do you mean in the sense that
In a sense now,
that you finally feel like you're starting to catch up?
yes. So it's like I'm just
It's like an
beginning.
instruction manual, right?
Yeah, it's just like a manual I've been given. So now, me being collecting these records and certain things for certain many years, now I can look at them, I can find out who they are, a bit more about them, and I can talk to someone who's got the same interest in what I've got an interest in, and I can spread the word a lot more easily. Yeah, I can commute with people, I can communicate with people a lot more efficiently, whereby before I couldn't do that. I didn't have that. I didn't have them tools. It's given me the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge to get to the place what I need to get to. And before I couldn't get there, purely the selfish of my own selfishness of saying that I can't do it. Or the embarrassment of thinking, oh, I can't spell that. How's it going to look when another child of 5-year-olds looks and, can do it at home? So it was a wake-up call for me to say, well, look, I'm not getting no younger. I'm not getting no older. I've missed out many years of not using the digital skills, but it is well needed now because I'm in that balloon where digital skills is needed to top up your phone and speak to your bank and
do pretty much everything.
Basically everything. So
was it a culture shock when you felt like everything moved online?
It was it was a very shocking thing to know that everything is done online, and it really took me back of childhood days where your mum or your father would say, read the book, the Peter and Jane book, or the school books, or you go into your first school. It brought back a lot of memories of stuff being in school. And obviously, I didn't have, in some schools where I was in Birmingham, we didn't have that technology, or we did have, but it was only for the few. And not for the so many. So now, done so much voluntary work for so many years, and I've been given a laptop. It comes in a bit like my records, but it's a new phase. It's like a new chapter in my conquest of what I'm supposed to be doing, which I love playing music and I love listening to music. And I hope that by having that first, it's like, to me, I like to play marbles. Where you just flick on the floor.
Guys, he's not joking.
Yeah, and I do carry marbles. If you look into this bag here, there's about 3 marbles in there.
Oh my God.
So,
okay.
So I'm not playing for money. So it's like I've been given this laptop. It's like something which I've always wanted, but I could never afford
have access
or
to.
never get access to. So it's opened my spiritually and physically and mentally emotional when I go on that laptop, because it's showing me and telling me, and I can speak to it and tell it what to do. And I can't exactly speak to my record and say play me, because everything is digital. If you get what I mean.
I hear you.
So having that tool today, it's like an umbrella to me. It's like a shield to me. It's like where I've lost all faith, I've got a bit of hope. Because I can use that laptop to build up my self-esteem, make me feel better every day I get up. I'm getting stronger and stronger. I'm getting more knowledgeable. I used to really use just the one hand, just for my phone, not for the toilet, but just for the one phone. But now, because I've got a computer and a laptop, I'm using both hands. Left, right, index fingers, more finger. where before it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it was lack of not having a laptop
The resources.
and the resources and the help. So I thank you very, very much, Nash, for inviting me. One day I went to the Green Man and I saw all these people sitting around the table. But because of I know I've done what I've done within the community, I passed them and I came back again to the Green Man. And I passed them in a couple of times. And then one day I thought to myself, well, I've got a disability and there's a man walking in with a stick. I'm thinking, let me ask what they do over there.
Yeah.
Without my pride or anything, you know. And when they told me that they did a workshop there and they can offer me a computer and a doddle, I was blown away. I thought, I went home that night and I couldn't sleep until I had to go and pick it up.
Yeah.
What was actually kind of funny is I was actually helping a different resident. That's actually one of his closest friends from when he was a kid, Roger. Which that's how he recognized and kind of connected with me.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's like one of the big things is like, sometimes you don't think about getting help with some things until you see someone get help.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, especially to the listeners, especially any of the younger lot that are listening to this, you're hearing an older person from the community kind of give his perspective about digital, like not having the resources. Like, these are things we take granted, like for granted. Like, seriously, we really do take it for granted. While it is really easy for us to learn those skills when we were growing up, some people just got left behind in general. And I'm only reiterating this point in particular because I feel like a lot of us, we don't have patience with our family and our parents.
Yeah.
And like, those are the things that sometimes our parents will ask us. I know mine does. But those are the type of things they ask for help and need. And I'm not saying, listen, obviously you could, that we all have our personal relationships. That's why we're gonna get a bit bickery, a bit rebellious, a bit, you know what I mean? But what I wanted to reiterate with this is that, like, just think about like just being raised in this generation with all these changes in terms of tech and all of that. Just be grateful for
For the tech.
Not even just being grateful for the tech, but like just being grateful for like having it included in your like syllabus in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
because I feel like for like, I don't know, my parents, for them, it was really hard. Like, because you just, it's not like an option for them. Like, you kind of have to just like keep up with your emails. Yeah. Like, you know, not everything is now being texted to. Whenever my mom would be like, yo, go and help me with my emails. And I'll be like, call me ass, man. I'm on my way. And then it's like, she kind of has to, like, her whole like career depends on me, low-key, like helping her with her emails. And when you put it that way, it's like, it's like, it's really insane how easy it is for me to just like open a PC, go through my emails, go through this, go through my admin work, scroll through my files. Do I need to do this? Delete this? I don't know, export this, send this to someone. And they are supposed to know that they are expected to know this by their bosses. Just because of how, like, you know, the digital age, you know, it's here, and it really doesn't give time.
Fair, bosses should be explaining stuff, and people should be asking
a lot
questions.
of them don't.
I do agree.
A lot of them don't. They just
but I will say that is something that a lot of us, we do have a problem of, like, in culture, like, I say culture, like in society. A lot of the time, things that everyone's supposed to know typically means that a lot of people won't raise their hand up and say, I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, you should, like, guys, okay, you know, you need to do X, Y, and Z. You guys already kind of know how to do this. And it that blanket, that statement just like puts it over a lot of people. And it's like, oh, if everyone's supposed to know it, I guess maybe I'm not, maybe I'll ask another time, you know. Yeah. And then it just gets pushed to the side. But a lot of the times when you do ask that question, a lot of people are like, oh, thank God that guy asked that question, because I wouldn't have known. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a big thing, man. Yeah. But I was going to say, just to kind of round it out, especially with this episode, Simon, if you could give
a person who hasn't done volunteering any advice, what would you give?
Well, I would say, if you haven't done any digital work or digital skills, you're losing out. You really are losing out. And the reason why I say you really are losing out, because digital skills, they count when you have your kids, which was one of the hardest way I found out, by leaving digital skills out. So when you have parents' days, you do not get invited. When there are school day out trips, you do not get invited. When you have to take your kids to school for packed lunch or day out trips, you do not get invited. And that's simply because you do not have the digital skills. You get left behind. And then what happens is, when you have your family, which is like me, the mother has more control. So the mother picks up the kid, the mother goes to the school plays, the mother gets more input. But it's very good that you do get to know that you can make up for it. My kids are there with me because I had to do everything just manually. Like I said, I had to do it on paper to them, whereby my partner or ex-partner, whoever it might be, or friend, can do that by using digital skills.
So is that something that you recommend
so
to
that's why I would,
anyone that goes into volunteering?
That's anybody who goes into voluntary, that it's very important to have that skill, because you're going to need it at some point if you have your family, because they're going to need that skill. And if it's only one of you who got that skill, it's very unbalanced. If the woman's got the skill, then the man gets left out. If the man's got the skill,
The woman gets that.
yeah. So
you want to balance it out.
you have to have the balance. And if you have the balance, then you got the love. And when you got the love, you got your child. You can educate them. You can tell them the right from the wrong.
All right.
It's more of an easy way. But if you lose out, they suffer, because they got nothing to educate them.
It's all right.
And guidance.
Well, thank you, Simon.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Talk
it.
to you, Simon.
Thank you for being a great guest on today's episode. Obviously, this won't be shipped out for a bit, but when I do find out when it's put out,
Yes.
I'll let you know, and you can let all your friends.
Yeah, thank you very much
Whoever.
for inviting me over to your show. I really appreciate you talking to the both of
all
you
good.
today. And hopefully maybe I could speak to you both again in the future.
100%. It was
100%.
really enjoyed talking to you
Very
today,
positive
Simon.
speaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
No
much.
worries. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye.